It's time for another Toypixx how-to video. Yay!
Well, hello there everybody, I'm Photo Dave, this is Toypixx, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I think about posing action figures when it comes to figure photography, using Wolverine and the X-Men from Medicom Mafex. But before we get into that, and if you're in a shopping mood, please remember to click the link in the video description below. That will take you to Entertainment Earth, where you'll save 10% off all in-stock items, and if you spend $59 or more, you'll also get free domestic shipping. But if you're just looking for pre-orders, make sure that at checkout, if you've spent $59 or more, you type in the code FREESHIP59 to also get free domestic shipping. It's a great way to help out the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, onto the video. Okay, we're not going to do anything too fancy here. We're just going to go through and think about how these characters would actually react in a given scenario. The scenario we're going to use is they just got done with a knockdown, all-out, drag-out, all-encompassing, insane throwdown with a whole lot of baddies. So this is just them shortly after the fight, kind of how I figure they'd probably be in that situation. Now, I'm using the X-Men here because I figure most of you know who they are, and so you can look and say, yeah, I think maybe that would be how Cyclops would be posed and everything after a fight. But for your collection, if you have figures that really aren't characters that are well fleshed out, this is where you get to flesh them out and then think to yourself, man, how would this character react in any given situation? Because you kind of want to think about that kind of stuff when you're getting these things ready for action figure photography. So the end result here is going to be, I'm going to set up each character, as if they just got done with a fight individually, and then I'll just put them all in a row, put them in a line, make them look like they're kind of intermingling with each other. We're not getting fancy on the background. This is all about the poses. And then I'll just shoot a quick pose picture. We'll put it up. No big thing, but it's not about the photography today as much as it is about the poses you're thinking about when you're getting ready for the photos. Now, with all that explanation out of the way, let's get to the table. Okay, let's start with everyone's favorite stick in the mud. We've got Psyche here. Now, we know that he's generally depicted as being a stick in the mud, but we also know that he really cares about his team. He wants to look out for them. He wants to make sure they're okay. But physically, if we're talking there was just a big knockout, drag down, I don't know, who knows, maybe I'm getting words mixed up here, but if there was a big fight, physically he probably didn't have to do much. He might have had to dive a couple times, maybe do a little bit of jumping around, but overall he just puts his finger up to his visor and blasts. So he's not somebody that was firing with a bunch of fisticuffs or anything. Physically, I would say Psyche is not exhausted. So the way that I would kind of see this at this point is he's walking. No big thing here. And again, the reason I use Mafex figures for demonstrations like this, their articulation is perfect for these kinds of things. A lot of it because of how their torsos are done. It's the same way that McFarlane Toys does torsos. It's the same way Valaverse does torsos. McFarlane, though, they need to work on the engineering, but it is the way that I really like to see. So we've got Psyche doing a little bit of walking, and it can be tricky. You got to try and get the balance right and not make it look totally off. You've got this foot in front a little, which means that this hand would be in front a little, or this arm. And remember, this is just a simple walk, so that arm's a little in the front. This arm's a little in the back, and we're going to turn his head this way, kind of like he's looking over his shoulder to see what's going on with somebody else on the team, make sure they're okay. Probably a little more like this. It's another nice thing about these is you want to use that tilt as much as possible. Use all the articulation because you want to make sure that these guys look like there's natural movement here. And with some characters or with some figures, you just can't do that. But with others, it's not such a problem. Let's go a little more forward with his leg. Just to sell that a little more, twist a little at the torso. And I would say after a fight, that's Psych just checking up on people. Okay, next up we just took care of Papa Bear. Let's take care of Mama Bear. Jean is one of those that will show her emotion. She'll definitely wear her heart on her sleeve, checking on everybody. But she also isn't such a stick in the mud, so she kind of let her hair down a little bit. She took down that little weird, I don't even know what to call it. It's almost like a band that was going across her forehead, but that also is attached. It was a weird design, if I'm being honest, but that's around her neck, so I did take care of that. And now what she would probably be doing is she would be right around Psych, but at the same time, she's also kind of looking around, seeing how everybody's doing. Maybe he's looking one way, she's looking the other way. Offering a hand. He's kind of just surveying the damage. But what might happen is after I do this, it might be that I put Jean's hand on maybe Wolverine's shoulder just to take off Psych. But I don't know, we'll see. Just kind of being one of those people that sits there and tries to help others out. She was always that character. Jean's one of those that probably should have died after the Dark Phoenix saga, though, just because it was such a perfect way for a character to go. Anyway, I'm just kind of messing with her legs a little bit here, trying to give something a little more. It's hard to get some of the Mafex female figures to show a lot of expression. It's not that they're bad figures. They're probably the best figures on the market today when it comes to the representation, but their elbows aren't great. Jean specifically is kind of a pain. Let's see, we got one arm kind of out, trying to help out. Do that, do that. There's not much. Like on camera, what I might sometimes try to do is have one leg straight like that, and the other kind of like how Jim Lee would draw him, where just one leg was kicked out in that way a bit. But when you're on camera, let's see, let's mess with the foot here. It's kind of hard to make that work. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we've got Jean. Now remember, this is after a fight, but I still think of Gambit as being one of those characters that's just kind of nimble and acrobatic. Obviously, he's been shown to be really acrobatic in the comics, so it's not like that's any kind of revolutionary thought. But if you've ever seen The Replacements, the kicker, when he says he's wiry, I think of Gambit as kind of a cross between a pretty tough gymnast and that wiry kicker. So whenever I pose him, I kind of like to have just a lot of movement with him. And it's not that he needs to have his coat way flared out or anything like that. When I talk movement, I don't mean necessarily a lot of action, but just using a lot of the articulation to kind of just have him there. Maybe, let's see, we'll try that same thing that we tried with Jean with the leg there. And just this hand, maybe there. Maybe, let's try this. Legs like that, he's kind of leaning on it. Got the other leg in the back here. And because he's bored, he's looking at his cards. He's just got them lit up, no big deal. Probably should put them in the right way, if I can on camera. And it seems I can't, but I'll put those cards on in a minute. But even so, I'll pull them on for the final group shot. But now, you know, he used that crunch a little bit. He's kind of just leaning on himself there. Come on, Gumbo. There we go. Okay, I had to cut away real quick so I could make those cards work because it was driving me nuts. But yeah, we've got 3 down, 2 to go. Next up, we have Betsy Braddock, Psylocke. Just standing there, still trying to come to grips with the fact that she has this ninja assassin body, but she is still this prim and proper British woman, so she tries to stand up straight. She's not going to show any kind of real weakness or anything like that. but she's trying to figure things out after this fight. As far as physical exhaustion, I would say there really isn't much, because as a trained ninja assassin, I would think no movement was wasted whatsoever. So physically, she's pretty good to go. She'd be a little tired, but still, because she doesn't want to show any kind of real weakness. She's just standing there straight, looking at her hand. I did add a little bit of a bend here at the waist, because it adds a little more dynamism to having her look at her hand and all that. And then this hand is just kind of here. Maybe just make a slight, subtle tweak there. But yeah, checking herself out, wondering how this is all possible. And what I'll probably do with her, honestly, is put her in the back of the group, because since she feels isolated from herself, she would feel isolated from everyone else. So not only would she be in the back, but she'd also have basically her back facing the camera. So there's Psylocke. And finally, we've come to the old knucklehead, the person whom I would argue would be the most exhausted after this fight. Gambit, you could make an argument for, but with him, I think he's mostly using his legs and his arms just to throw cards. It's not like he's trying to punch anybody or throw down in any real way there. Wolverine here is using every muscle in his body as a scrapper that he is. Now, Wolverine's also a trained martial artist, but he's generally depicted as a brawler, so that's what we're going to do here. Now, remember that as crazy as he's been depicted on cartoons and in comics and in film, Wolverine might have an adamantium skeleton. He might have claws. He might have a healing factor. But other than that, he's just like the rest of us. And I say that to say that this guy isn't the Hulk. He's not even as strong as Spider-Man. He's just a dude who fights hard and can recover in a hurry. So this would be right after everything. He hasn't recovered yet or anything like that, but for this, I figure he's sitting, so we're going to bring in this little block. My sister got it for me for Christmas. Good times. And he's just kind of down. Now, it's nice to not leave things totally even, totally symmetrical. So think about that when you're doing this kind of stuff. Lean him forward a bit. Just a little exhausted. He might be... Wolverine has his pride, obviously, but he has nothing to prove to anybody. So if he's tired, he's going to sit, and he's going to be totally okay with it. And everybody that he fought with is going to be totally okay with it too, or else. So, there we go. I'm trying to figure out what else with his hand, but his hand's kind of on his leg. So that's about right. This hand's on this leg. He's got his head up. Maybe he's healing a little bit. We could put his head down, but I don't think he's quite that exhausted. It's still Wolverine, so he's going to want to be alert. So we'll leave the head up. And now, we'll put this whole picture together, shoot it, and get to the end. And that, as the kids say, was that. Now comment below and let me know, is this going to help you when it comes to posing your figures for your own figure photography? And if it's not, let me know some tricks that you use when it comes to posing, because as I would say at the beginning of a lot of videos way back when, I'm here to learn just as much as I'm here to try and help you guys learn how to shoot these things. So, with all that said, thanks again for watching, and until next time, have fun, and happy snapping. See ya.